Let's go. Okay, it's day 3. You're all still here. This is fantastic. Or you're watching on the replay. Today we're going to talk about external obstacles. So we've been very internally focused for Monday and Tuesday. And of course, external things come up and try to intrude on our creative space. And of course, we have responsibilities and other priorities. So we're going to talk about how we deal with external obstacles today. But first, I would love to hear, how did it go yesterday? Tell me in the chat how it's going. Good morning, Amy. Amy's a member of the Happily Ever Author Club. She rocks. Brianna says, sticking to my goal and making great headway. Yay. Linda says, great. Christy says, because of Mind Over Manuscript Challenge, I actually started working on my website. Yay! And figure out, right, for those of you who weren't writing and now you are, what parts of this are the most beneficial for you? What story are you telling yourself? What lessons are you learning, right? How are you thinking about the container in a way that you can keep repeating on and on and on? Anne says, getting stuff done. Mary Beth says, made my daily goal. Ted says, actually met my goal and was happy with progress yesterday. Yay. Vicky says, made my mini goal for Tuesday. Oberon says, pretty good. I got on a call with a writer friend after the meeting, which was fun, and met my goal too. Fantastic. Rachel says, yesterday went very well with meeting my goal, not as well with posting that I did it. That's all right. The important part is the doing it itself. Zoe says, I just finished this draft of my proposal and chapter outlines today and sent to a friend to forward to his agent. That's fantastic. Sean says, approaching 10,000 words in, 3 days. This is the 3rd day. Kim says, it's going well and starting to write more. Jody says, I got writing done, but not what I planned to do. So I'm planning to do some more of that tomorrow. Great. Imogene says, reminding myself it's better than last week though. Baby steps. Yes. Like really celebrate the baby steps. If it's better than last week, we want to see, forward momentum. Priscilla says, met my goal, but feel the resistance. So later on, you can raise your hand for coaching if you want, Priscilla. Chris says, fitting it around work, but getting words in each day. Yes, and this is a great conversation for you today, Chris, about the external obstacles. Deborah says, no problem, just progress. Yep. Where did we go? I'm jumping fast. Brooke says, challenge is a reboot of sorts for me. Yay. Sean says, hearing other people with the same experience. Yeah, absolutely. Making goals manageable is so crucial, Jen says. Yes. Maxine says, I'm learning to be fascinated by what I can do, right? Doesn't it feel great to blow your own mind? Dale says, I readjusted to realistic. Yep, we're learning. These are all data points where we can okay, that didn't work. What do I need to try that's different? And a lot of times we want to tweak the story first before we decide whether or not to tweak the action list, right? Really look at, I want you guys to always be thinking to the story first. Is there something I can change about the way that I'm approaching this rather than the thing that I'm approaching? And then of course we can make tweaks as well. Smile, laugh, giggle says, I'm getting the words down so far about 500 this week, so that's a win. Yes, it is. Irene says, evening in South Wales. I just got started on the middle of a short story for a competition. Fabulous. Okay, I could keep going forever. Oh, I'm almost done. Okay, 2 days in a row is better than writing last week or last month. Yay. Irene says, tried the candle in the early hours of the morning and it worked to get back on track with the short story. Oh, good. That's a good tool. Despina says, I'm actually started writing again. And Lulu says, doubled my goal and hit 50K. Fabulous. So delighted. It is so fun for me as a coach to create a container where writers write like that. I love it so much. Okay. Quick reminders, replays will be available for 24 hours. We will send you links every morning as you found because you're here. And then Friday through Sunday, we'll repost the replays for all of the days so that you can catch up. One other thing I want to mention about the accountability thread in the community. Please only post on that thread once you have done your thing for the day that you set out to do. Because if you tell us you're going to do it, then it makes it harder for Ruth to draw names for who's the winner of the prize for that day, because not everybody who's posting there has actually done the thing. So the accountability thread is just to go in and comment once you've done your thing for the day. Let's see. Okay, 4 methods for dealing with external obstacles. So let's talk about this. One of these is going to be controversial, and you guys are going to give me pushback, and I want you to. I can take it. We can talk about it. Okay. So this is the most controversial one. Plan your life around your writing. Decide when you'll write before you plan everything else. It doesn't have to be the most time spent, but it should be one of your top priorities. So drop a 2 in the chat if this makes you just queasy. Yeah. Okay, we've got some 2s. Okay, so here's what I'm not saying. I'm not saying make writing the most important thing in your life, burn down all your relationships, stop paying your bills, run yourself into the ground, right? That's not what I'm saying. But especially if you do not have a deadline, right? If you don't have a book deal and you don't have an editor and you don't have like a deadline, you have to plan your life around your writing if you want that writing to actually get done. So you can plan to only write 15 minutes a day. I don't care. But if you want that 15 minutes to happen, you have to plan your life so that it fits in there, right? We're not going to like, oh, I'm going to do every other thing, right? Remember the book by Betty Friedan, right? The Feminine Mystique. Something is stuck. I read that book when I was like in my late teens, early 20s. But one of the titles that stuck with me forever that is more broadly applicable is housewifery expands to fill the time available, right? Adult responsibilities will expand to fill the time available till you say there's no time left for writing. If writing is a priority, we have to treat it as such and put it in every day. Again, it doesn't mean you're neglecting other people or other responsibilities. You are simply carving out time for your writing life. You're making sure that is a part of your life plan. All right. So the people who put a 2 in, put a 3 in if what I just said helps you feel better about it. Okay. Good. I've got a few converts. Okay. And drop a 1 in the chat if you're totally cool with this. Like, yeah, you're right. I need to plan my life around my writing, or I'm already doing it. Okay. All right. So please remember that, and we're going to talk about this a little more in the context of one of the other things. But if you don't do this, if you don't plan your writing and then plan everything else around it, it's just so unlikely to happen because there's so many things pressing for our attention that your writing will get lost in the shuffle unless you're, have a deadline and you're supposed to deliver to an editor. Plan the important over the urgent, right? This is part and parcel of this rule. Here's what happens. If I have a list of the urgent, time-sensitive things in my head that need to happen, right? And I'm going to do those first, right? So my kid, his birthday is this weekend. So I got to get a cake. I still have to go to the pharmacy and pick up a couple prescriptions. I have to wash a load of clothes because my 11-year-old will only wear like 1 pair of shorts. So I got to wash those shorts so she can wear them tomorrow. Those are my urgent, time-sensitive things. If I said, oh, I need to do all those urgent things first, my brain wants to conserve energy. So as soon as those things are done, my brain's like, whew, done, time to check out. That's all the energy, like, done. Right? That is why we say important over urgent. It took me a long time to realize like how this rule functions, because you hear it all the time, important over urgent. It's because as soon as your brain is done with those urgent things, it's going to check out. So we have to do the important things first, or know exactly where we're going to do them, and then address the urgent things. The urgent things are going to get done because they have to, right? That's easy. It's easy to do urgent things. It's harder to get up here in our prefrontal cortex and plan to do those important things. So if your inner saboteur can get you all freaked out about the urgent things, victory. Okay. Imogen says, any advice on how to turn off the background noise of the urgent? Write down your plan for the day where your important things are first and your urgent things are on your list, but those have to wait. Then your brain can settle down a little bit because they're captured, but you do the other things first. So that's the best way that I know of. If anybody else has other ways that they do it, feel free to drop it in the chat. Okay, number 2. Eliminate, automate, delegate. This was famously in Tim Ferriss's book, The 4-Hour Workweek. He didn't come up with it. I can't remember who did. But this is a great tool to think about how to make space in your life. And you want to do it in this order, right? Delegate is last for a reason, because we don't want to be delegating things that can either be taken out altogether or automated. So number 1, most important and the biggest win is, what can you just stop doing altogether, and you're just willing to accept the consequences, whatever those consequences are, right? I don't fold clothes and put them away. I just stopped doing that. I've got 2 tables in my basement. One's a clean table and one's a dirty table. So the dirty clothes come down, they go on the dirty table. I wash them, I dry them, I put them on the clean table. The only thing I fold is towels and bring them upstairs. I don't care. The consequence is I don't have a dresser drawer that looks like other people's dresser drawers. I don't care. I'm not going to spend my time folding clothes. It's not important to me. Other things could be volunteer stuff that you said you were going to do, or something that you signed up for that you wish you hadn't, or maybe you're someone who thinks the floor needs to be swept every single night. You could just stop doing that. Number 2, what can you set up to be done automatically so you can save time, and also, just as importantly, mental load, right? If you are someone who is, the head of a household, and you have that, your mental load is very, very high. If you have a demanding day job, you have a very large mental load. So what automations can you set up that saves you time and saves you mental load? So there's a lot of technology tools. You can set up a lot of automations, especially using AI these days. There are lots of things that you can automate. And then on the household level, it's even as simple as, my dishwasher pods are on auto ship, so I don't have to think about it, and I don't have to track when I'm going to run out. I know about how many I use, and they come every month. Right. So there are a lot of things that you can automate that just reduce your mental load. So you can use that mental energy to be thinking about your writing. All right. And then finally, the third one is, what can you delegate to others? So we don't want to delegate things that don't need to be done or can be automated. And then maybe you have partners, kids, maybe you have a virtual assistant, maybe you have someone that you trade with, right? What can you delegate to other people so that you don't have to do it? And delegate things ripe for delegation are things where it doesn't matter if you're the one to do them or not. They just need to get done, but there's nothing special about your ability to do them. So somebody else can do them. Yes, Liv, exactly. Yeah. And for people pleasers, this one's really, really hard. This one's really hard. Okay. And I speak that as a recovering people pleaser myself, right? And if they gave out the little medallions for that, I would have my day 1 and my day 30 medallion over and over and over again. Right? It's something, it's like a lifelong thing to desensitize yourself to, or deprogram yourself from people pleasing. Oh, Zoe, brilliant. I left my whole household for 20 days to get on with my book, and I'm in a remote cottage in Scotland. Only commitment is dog walking. Fabulous. Fabulous. Okay. Actually, I want to read a couple more of these. Jody says, at the moment, I'm using my writing as a reward. Only when I've done the things on my list do I settle down and write. It's working for me at the moment. The things on my list won't take all day, so there will be time to write. Does this go against what you're saying, though? As long as you've got the plan, right? So you've built your life around the writing, and for right now, it's working for you to write as a reward. So that doesn't go against what I'm saying because it's in your plan. I would, however, and if writing feels like a reward, not every writer does writing feel like a reward. I would actually say for most people, they need to flip that, and they're not allowed to do their other chores until their writing's done. Because most people will use the other chores as an excuse, and then the writing doesn't happen at the end. If it is working for you, great. But if you're listening to her saying that and saying that wouldn't work for me, flip it. Despina says, what about the guilt that goes with prioritizing writing? It is patriarchal nonsense. That's what I have to say about the guilt that goes along with writing. It is social conditioning that is nonsense and designed to keep you quiet. And I don't like it. And I don't want you to feel that way. I want you to look for reasons why writing is good, not only for you, but for everyone around you. Tell me in the chat, write down at least 3 reasons why there's nothing to feel guilty about, and it's actually for the benefit of you and those around you. Yes, and Oberon, I can talk about that too. Oberon says, it's so hard when the kids are super little and need so much attention all the time. At the moment, I only have time to carve out in the wee hours of the morning. And I really want you to be sleeping, Oberon. I really want to make sure that you get sleeping done. So when we have circumstances that make it difficult, we just carve out those little bits here and there, and we're so proud of ourselves when we do it. Our writing life is not going to look like somebody who can leave the house for 20 days and go to a cottage in Scotland. And that's okay, right? This is one season of your life, and this is what writing is looking like in this season of your life. And it won't always be that way. And I did not actually get myself to write until I had kids, because all of a sudden I was like, oh, if I want my kids to be able to live their dreams, then I have to model that for them, right? Because I was an obliger and a people pleaser. So I was, before I had kids, I was spending my time doing all of those things, which is just a normal human arc, right? It's fine. But even though I didn't have a ton of time to do it when they were little, that is when I actually started, because that's when it seemed most important. Right. So I love that you're still writing a little bit. I do want to make sure you get as much sleep as you possibly can so you don't burn out. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Andrea's talking about my point about the using the writing as a reward. See, I would not get writing done if I didn't do writing first. Chores, etc., would take over. Exactly. That's most people. But again, if it's working for the other person, that's great. Okay. Number 3, decide ahead of time what warrants an interruption to your writing time. Decide ahead of time. So make a list of things that you know might interrupt the time that you've set aside for writing, right? Because we have experience, we have lots of evidence of what's happened in the past. Now decide which of those is actually enough of an emergency that you would move your writing time. Treat your writing time like it's a doctor's appointment that you had to wait 6 months to get, right? I bet there are very few things that would make you move that. So again, this speaks to the cultural messaging that we get, which is that everybody's needs supersede our own little silly need for creativity. And that's not true, especially if you're the kind of person who really needs a creative outlet and you keep pushing it down and pushing it down and pushing it down. How happy are you going to be about showing up for people? Are you eventually going to get super resentful and bitchy about it? We don't want that either, right? When I'm doing my writing, I'm a way better, more attentive mom when I'm with my kids. If I have that creative outlet and I have that time for processing my own thoughts and feelings and emotions and doing my creative work. Okay. So that I really want you to do this is decide ahead of time what actually makes enough of an emergency that I am willing to move my writing time. Okay. Because most of the time it's just other people's nonsense and our inner saboteur uses it as an excuse. All right, number 4, plan A, plan B, plan C. So plan A is for the amount of progress that you want to make on a day where everything's going pretty well, right? Conditions are mostly in your favor. And it doesn't have to be the same plan A every day, right? At the beginning of the week, you can be like, oh, Monday I can do this much, and Tuesday I can do that much, and Wednesday I can do that much. It doesn't have to be this like super blanket, consistent 2,500 words a day. But a plan A is the amount of progress you want to make on a day where conditions are mostly in your favor. All right. Then, if one of your identified important interruptions occur, see the previous slide, we're going to move to plan B. And it's going to take less time and or less effort than plan A, but still decent, right? And moving you forward. That's a plan B day. Plan C is if things go completely sideways. Plan C should be like ridiculously easy to execute, but you're going to do it anyway because it proves to your inner saboteur that you're still committed. I recommend that you only use this once a month. Otherwise, your inner saboteur will get really good at convincing you that every day is a plan C day. Right? So that's in our back pocket. We get to use it once a month, depending on your circumstances. You can tweak that however you want. But we set up our week. Here's my plan A for all of the different days. Here's what warrants an interruption. Here's my plan if I get interrupted. Here's my plan B. And then if things get really bad, here's my plan C. So maybe your plan A is, okay, I'm going to write 500 words, and I'm just making up numbers. So there's no value judgment that this is good or bad, just making up numbers. So my plan A for Monday is 500 words. One of my identified important interruptions is if like one of my kids gets sick, right? So they're staying home. Then I'm going to move to plan B, which is 250 words while the sick kid is settled in bed, watching a movie. So 250 words then becomes my plan B. Maybe I even get to plan A anyway, right? Once I'm actually in there, maybe I get to 500, who knows? But I've got a plan B in my back pocket, and I know that I can still get that done. A plan C is, oh my God, and my husband spilled on his pants at work, and my kid's sick, and the dog needs to go to the emergency vet, and everything is completely sideways. So plan C is I'm sitting in the waiting room on my phone and I'm just reading what I wrote yesterday. Still touching the project, but it's really, really easy to do. Yes, I love this, Nicole. This plan ABC is great. An ADHD YouTuber suggested folks look at their days in a similar way. High energy day, an okay day, and a bare minimum day. Yes, exact same concept. And you can think about it in terms of energy or time. I'm glad you brought that up. So plan A for you who are spoonies, my spoonies out there. Plan A is when, you're having a good day. Plan B is, I can feel I've got fewer spoons today. And if you guys don't know what I mean by spoony, you probably don't need to know, so don't worry about it. And then plan C is, this is awful. And your plan C might be, all I'm going to do is open the document and blow it a kiss, right? Okay. So those are the 4 ways that you can deal with outside obstacles. I want you to tell me in the chat, what are some of the most common obstacles that you face? Tanya says, this is what I'm living right now. Solo parenting week that went sideways because kiddo came home from school. Minimum, super flexible, and letting things go and accepting messy house over not touching the project. Yes. Yep. Sometimes we know we can clean up a house once we're done with this important project. We know we can get it clean again. Yeah. Jen says health issues and fatigue. Yes. So you're going to have days where you have the energy and you're going to have days that when you don't. And I want you, Jen's a member of our Happily Ever Author Club. I want you to be prioritizing the rest, the sleep, the recovery, and you might be having very, very low minimums right now. Lulu C says kids and homeschooling and Velcro doggo. Yes. Right. And I actually for next year will probably be homeschooling my 11-year-old. So I'm going to have to up my game and make sure everything gets done too. So I'm totally with you. Anne says other people's agendas and timelines, right? So we practice either saying no. I would recommend, and if you have a hard time with this, and for all my other people pleasers out there, when somebody asks you something, you're like, let me think about that and get back to you, right? You don't have to say no right away. Like, I want you to let me think about that and get back to you. And then you don't have to do it on their terms either. If you decide it's something that you want to do, you can be like, you know what? I have 1 hour I can dedicate to that this weekend. What do you want me to do within that time? Right? So you can negotiate and you can say no. Both of those things are on the table. And your own agenda and timeline does not always need to move because of somebody else's. Melissa says depression. Yes, I'm so sorry, my friend. So make sure that you're doing all the things that you can do. So mental health plan, mental health team. Physiology is a really important component of depression. I say that as someone with experience of depression, and my husband has depression. So physiologically, even though it's the last thing you want to do, what are those things that your body needs to keep moving forward to? So sending you all the love. Andrew says, Spoonie here, not having energy or a flare up. Yeah. So again, you having a plan A, B, and C, and not having any drama around having to pull out a plan B or plan C is going to help, right? One of the frustrating things about being a Spoonie and having chronic health conditions is you get so pissed, right? When we don't get to follow the plan. And then that kind of eats up some energy and adds to the suffering of the situation. So having these backup plans gives you something where you can dial down the drama around it and just be like, oh, look at this. I thought it was going to be a plan A day, but it's a plan C day. And Spoonies, you probably get more than one plan C day a month. Remember, you get to decide all this. Maxine says work and family. I would get more specific, Maxine, because we all have work and family mostly. So what particularly the requests from work and the requests from family interfere with the writing time? Get really specific. Brooke says social media and my phone. Yep. And then you can look at, all right, what can I do to minimize that? So am I doing my writing in the morning before I pick up my phone? There are a bunch of different ways, and I would just do experiments and see what works best for you for right now. Therese says caring for a disabled brother. Yeah. So you're going to have to look and be like, how do I plan to get my writing in there, knowing what I know about the care that my brother needs, the time it takes, etc. Get really creative, right, about where you can fit that in there. Chores and exhaustion. Yeah, a lot of times we're not talking about time issues. We're talking about energy issues. So we really have to look physiologically. Am I getting enough sleep? Am I getting enough fuel for my body? Am I getting enough water? Do I need to go to the doctor and get some underlying health things addressed? My self-care, right? I get a lot done and I'm very productive. I have to be freaking immaculate about my self-care. I have type 1 diabetes. I have Hashimoto's. I've got celiac, and I've got, sleep apnea. And if I don't take care of myself, with sleep and nutrition particularly are the biggest ones for me, there's no gas in the tank. So sometimes we have to solve for these physiological things first and these energy issues first, right? I like to say, if you're having energy issues, the energy you do have should be going into ways to increase your energy, if it can possibly be done. Zoe says work commitments as a freelancer and work deadlines. Yeah, and again, those are deadlines driven, so they're urgent. So even if you're only getting 15 minutes in on your own project before you start working on deadlines, that can make a huge difference. Okay, I'm seeing some repeats. Yeah, Brianna says, I have an extremely demanding day job with a high mental load, and by the time I'm done, I am absolute roadkill. Yes. And here's the paradox, because Anne and I both had this when Anne Holly's our developmental editor, one of them. And we met, oh my God, how many years ago now? 16 years ago, when we were both working for a local government, and we were on a very high stress software implementation project. And I was raising a baby at the time, and Anne was writing a fan fiction novel that later ended up being a real novel after a lot of reworking. Taking the time, and I also started freelance writing on the side while that was happening. I made sure I had a garden, and I made sure I was writing, because yes, it was extremely fatiguing and demanding, but it was even more so if that's all I had to look forward to in my day. Paradoxically, spending some extra time on your writing, hopefully earlier in the day before work, can actually give you more energy overall. It doesn't make sense, but it does make sense, because it's extremely draining to just show up for something that is grueling and you don't want to do. Okay. The cat brain goes dead and computer plays up. Yeah. And your cats. I don't know what to do with these guys. They need some like insane cat toys in another room so you can get your writing done. Okay. I like that. That's a good solution. Sean says, as a family, we've scheduled meeting over Sunday dinner. This prevents everything except the emergencies. Yeah, because you got that carved out family time too. Okay. And Ted, same thing. Like, you'd be surprised. Even if you just do a little bit, it can actually add to your overall energy pool. It does not seem like it would, but experiment with it, and maybe it will, maybe it won't. Okay. I want to make sure we get to coaching, so I can't read every single one of those, even if I want to. Today's journal prompt is going to be listing all the external obstacles that you use as excuses not to do your writing. And then for each obstacle, brainstorm ways to write anyway. Right? Some of you are doing this in the circle community already, so you can get good ideas from other people. And you just did some of it here in the chat. So you know what your obstacles are. You're going to get really creative about ways around them. You're not going to use the same old thought pattern and decision-making process that you've been using that made these into seemingly insurmountable obstacles. You're going to get really creative and brainstorm. Even if you don't end up using that idea, I want you to just generate ideas for how to handle it. All right. Drop a 1 in the chat if you got some ideas on changes that you can make from this session. Okay, great. All right. Tomorrow we're going to talk about who you want to be versus what you want to do.